Welcome back to Rare Gameroom Gaming. If you're a fan of classic gaming history and rare titles, then you're in the right place. Today, we're taking a trip back to the late 80s to shred some pixels and relive one of the most radical sports titles ever to roll onto the original Nintendo Entertainment System, Skate or Die. This was more than just a game, it was a vibe. The skate culture of the 80s was exploding, from Tony Hawk's early days to movies like Thrashin' and Gleaming the Cube.
I don't know what's worse, being blown up in nuclear war or having a 7-Eleven on every corner.
You want it to be just like you? Think maybe if I had your haircut, I could sell more policies?
And right in the middle of that wave came Skate or Die, a game that tried to capture that rebellious skate park energy, punk rock, graffiti, and all. So grab your board, crank up that 8-bit music, and let's dive deep into the history, development, gameplay, and legacy of Skate or Die. The story of Skate or Die actually begins with Electronic Arts. Yes, the same EA that's now known for FIFA and Madden. Back in 1987, Electronic Arts was just starting to expand beyond computer games, and they wanted to try their hand at the console market. At the time, most of their games were developed for home computers like the Commodore 64 and the Apple II. So, when they decided to make Skate or Die, it was originally released for the Commodore 64 first, in 1987, before being ported to the original Nintendo Entertainment System in 1988. Interestingly, EA couldn't release the game on the Nintendo system themselves because Nintendo had strict licensing rules for third-party developers. So, EA partnered with Konami's American publishing arm, Ultra Games, to get Skate or Die onto the console.
I'm the creator of Ultra Games for Nintendo, like Metal Gear, where you're a commando searching for deadly weapons. Defender of the Crown, with strategic castle sieges, raids and destroyers, and Skate or Die, in 5 rad events that pit you against a friend or bionic Lester. So check out Ultra Games. Remember, I'm never farther than your TV.
Skate or Die was designed by Michael Kosaka, who had previously worked on several computer games for EA. The programming was handled by Stephen Landrum, and the soundtrack, one of the most iconic parts of the game, was composed by Rob Hubbard. Now, here's a fun fact that many players may not know. Rob Hubbard was one of the most legendary composers in the early days of computer gaming. He was responsible for some of the best Commodore 64 soundtracks ever made, including Monty on the Run, and International Karate. When he brought his sound design to Skate or Die, he helped create one of the most memorable 8-bit title themes ever. That screaming guitar-like riff that hit you as soon as you turned on the game. It was ahead of its time, and even today, chiptune artists still remix that song as a tribute to his work. Skate or Die was more than just one mode. It was a collection of 5 events that tried to represent the skateboarding world in different ways. Players could compete in freestyle, downhill race, downhill jam, high jump, and pool joust. And that last one, pool joust, was wild. 2 skaters would drop into an empty swimming pool armed with padded sticks, trying to knock each other off their boards. It was one of the earliest examples of competitive multiplayer on the same screen that actually felt fun and unpredictable. Each event had its own physics, learning curve, and style. It wasn't a perfect simulation, far from it, but for 1988, it was one of the first games to even try to represent real skateboarding techniques and competitions. When Skate or Die launched, the skateboarding culture was going mainstream again. The mid-'80s skate boom brought new stars, magazines, and a whole youth identity. The game tried to bottle that energy. The character design reflected this too. You had the Mohawk shop owner Rodney, who greeted you with sarcastic comments every time you started an event. Fun fact, Rodney was inspired by the punk scene that was taking over Southern California at the time, particularly the skaters from Venice Beach. And if you look closely, Skate or Die felt like a blend between sports and attitude, something that paved the way for future titles like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater over a decade later. Because the original Skate or Die was a hit, EA decided to keep the wheels spinning with sequels. In 1990, Skate or Die 2. The Search for Double Trouble came out on the original Nintendo Entertainment System. This sequel added a story mode, something you didn't see often in sports games back then. You could explore the city, use weapons like paintball guns, and even take on enemies in side-scrolling levels. It was bigger, louder, and much more ambitious. There were also computer versions like Ski or Die, a winter-themed spin-off that kept the same humor and style but swapped skateboards for snowboards and skis. Sadly, there was never a Skate or Die arcade version, even though the gameplay and attitude seemed perfect for it. However, the Commodore 64 and Amiga versions are often considered the best representations of the original vision. Smoother graphics and sharper sound compared to the original Nintendo Entertainment System port. Interestingly, Skate or Die never got an official Famicom release in Japan, which is pretty rare for a game published by a partner of Konami. Japan's gaming culture at the time was more focused on platformers and RPGs, while skateboarding hadn't quite hit the same cultural wave there yet. There were no Sega Genesis or Sega Master System versions either, but unofficial clones and skate-inspired titles popped up on those systems. Games like California Games, which shared a similar mini-game structure. When comparing Skate or Die to other skateboarding or extreme sports titles, it's easy to see how much of a trailblazer it was. Before Tony Hawk's Pro Skater revolutionized skate games in 1999, there were very few that truly captured the fun and challenge of skateboarding. Games like 720 Degrees, which hit arcades in 1986, were the closest competition at the time. 720 Degrees was more polished as an arcade experience, but Skate or Die had personality. It had humor, music, and that rebellious 80s flavor that made it stand out. Modern skate games like Session and Skater XL focus on realism, physics, and control precision. But Skate or Die was about chaos and charm. It didn't care if you fell flat on your face. It just wanted you to have fun. Skate or Die sold moderately well for its time. It wasn't a blockbuster like Super Mario Bros. Or The Legend of Zelda, but it found a solid audience, particularly among teens and players looking for something different from platformers and shooters. Critics back in the late 1980s gave the game mixed reviews. Nintendo Power praised its creativity and unique concept, but criticized its controls, which were a little clunky and hard to master. However, many players today remember it fondly as one of those weekend rental classics. A game you'd grab from the video store, play with your friends, and laugh over while trying to land that perfect pool joust. The legacy of Skate or Die lives on even today. While the franchise never returned after the early 1990s, its influence can be felt in later EA titles. You could argue that games like Skate, released by EA in 2007, are spiritual successors, focusing on creativity, trick systems, and that same free-spirited skate culture. And even though Skate or Die never inspired an official movie, anime or comic series, its punk aesthetic and tone fit right in with the late 80s skate craze. Movies like Gleaming the Cube, starring Christian Slater, felt like live-action versions of what the game represented: rebellion, freedom, and style. Skate or Die might not have been perfect, but it was fearless. It captured a real cultural moment and brought skateboarding into living rooms before it was cool. It's a reminder that creativity and attitude can make even a simple game stand out decades later. So, what are your memories of Skate or Die? Did you play it on the original Nintendo, or maybe on the Commodore 64? Drop a comment below and tell us your favorite event. And let us know what classic game you'd like us to cover next here on Rare Gameroom Gaming. And hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. It really helps the channel grow, so we can keep bringing you more deep dives into gaming history. If you're not subscribed yet, click our profile picture right here to join the Rare Gameroom Gaming family. And if you want more classic game histories, click one of the videos on your screen right now. Thanks so much for watching.